What up? All right, so what's up, partner? So, in this quick mini video training, we're going to talk about how to lead your business without micromanaging everything so you can generate consistent results and feel clear and respected as a leader within your business. So, this is not me doing a bitch, gripe, or complaint session. This is a leadership conversation between you and me. All right, if you don't know, I'm Jay Jackson. I'm the founder of the Leverage Alliance, where I help agency owners and service professionals generate revenue through leadership and repeatable systems. I've built a system that allowed me to go from 18-hour days to 5-hour days. And I have helped my clients implement this system so that they can take back their time and have consistent 10K plus months. So if you want results without chasing leads or repeating yourself, subscribe to the channel. Let's go. All right, so there is a belief that is destroying your results. And so most business owners believe that leadership means being flexible and stepping in only when things go wrong. Now, I'm not saying that you should never be flexible. But, however, I am saying that you being flexible is what allows the standard to dip. All right. And so once you set the standard, you have to raise the standard and then maintain the standard. But if you're flexible in the standard, then that is what allows people to get away with things and do things that fall outside of the way that you want your standard operating procedures to go. So, for example, if the showtime for work is 8 a.m., don't be flexible in terms of what time people show up. You set the standard. If the standard and the expectation is, especially if you've communicated this very clearly, showtime work starts at 8, that means they show at 7:45. That way, that 15 minutes is what they do, water cooler talk, get a cup of coffee, check your email, all of those things, because work starts at 8 a.m. Right? And this doesn't mean that you have to be a tyrant, but you do have to make sure the standard is set, the standard is communicated, and then the standard is upheld. And look, and I get sometimes the idea of, being flexible can make sense because you don't want to be seen as, bossy or even hard to work with. That's only going to come from people who don't want to be held accountable, people who don't, value discipline, people who don't value growth. And when you identify those people, you should never hire them, number one. But if you identify those people within your company, you need to get rid of them immediately. All right. So here's what most business owners don't understand. That belief of being flexible, it slowly removes ownership from everybody else and it brings it back to you. So, for example, if you hired someone to do sales and you realize that, hey, our close rates dropped. Well, your close rates dropped because you were likely flexible on them following the script or them following the procedures that you established for them to be able to follow. So now you jump back in the sales seat. You hire someone to execute your marketing and your lead conversion rate takes a dip. Well, you jump back in and now you're trying to figure out, okay, well, what's up with the copy, or is there a settings off in your targeting that's off? You jump back in that seat. You're now allowing the standard to dip opposed to holding them to a specific outcome and a specific metric or KPI that you've established. And when they dip below, they have to now help you better understand what caused us to dip below and what is our solution. And the member of your team should be able to explain to you what caused the dip and what the solution is. So here's the problem with the belief of I don't want to be bossy or hard to work with. Here's what the problem that it creates. It blurs responsibility across your team. No one knows or understands who's responsible for what outcomes. No one knows or understands, what are going to be the consequences if we don't meet these standards and KPIs. And so you don't want to be flexible. Like you want to say, hey, look, I know that this process works. I've documented this process. I have participated or executed this process enough times to know that if you do it this specific way, then we're going to get this fact outcome. You train them properly, you review their calls properly to make sure that they're doing it properly, and then that way you can easily determine where they're breaking the script or breaking out of your SOP and not doing what you train them to do, because the standard operating procedure, that's why it's called standard, you make sure that they meet the standard. Being flexible teaches people to wait instead of making decisions. I can tell you from personal experience that if I have to make the decision, then why did I hire you? All right. And so you want to make sure that your team members that you're hiring, they're able to make decisions so that the decisions don't always come back to you. And that keeps you from having decision fatigue. It forces you to follow up on things that should have already been done. So basically, what we do is we have two team meetings. One is on Monday, which is our executive team meeting. And then one is on Friday, where we have our overall weekly team meeting. And in each of those meetings, that's how we're able to track what's on course, what's off course, what do we need to start, stop, or continue doing. That way, I don't have to worry about, asking someone on Wednesday, hey, what's the status of this thing? It's already built into our meeting structure, the specific things that we focus on in each meeting to make sure that everything is being done and being completed. All right. So to avoid your work being stalled and to avoid feeling stressed and drained, this is why you have to set the standard and keep accountability. If accountability were strong, you would not need constant check-ins. The fact that you do need constant check-ins, that should be a signal that something is off. If this sounds familiar to you, let me know down in the comments, but that's because this belief of I want to be flexible, I don't want to be bossy, I don't want to be hard to work with, or I don't want to be a hard ass, that's keeping you stuck. All right, and I want to show you that there's a different way. All right, and so here's the shift that turns your responsibility into respect. Leadership is not about being involved in everything. It's about setting standards and then holding people to the standard. One of the things that I discovered while in the military is just that, standards, right? I was a civilian. I knew absolutely nothing about what the word standard even meant. But when you fall below the standard in the military, it's very clear, right? Number one, in like basic training, you're going to get yelled at by your training instructor. Number two, when you get to your technical school, which is where you get the training specifically for your job, you can now start to get demerits or get marked up, right? So get a negative marking. And so now you understand, like, hey, I didn't meet the standard, so now I've got this negative marking on my record, and this can keep me from going to the next stage of training, which keeps me from graduation. All right, so you want to make sure that you're holding people to the standard. So to get to your next level, your job is no longer to remind, rescue, or repeat yourself. Like, repeating myself is something that I hate to do. All right, and I know hate's such a strong emotion, but I hate repeating myself. So that's why communication is so important. That's why I always talk about making sure that you're communicating within your project management software. That way, everyone on the team can see the message, everyone gets a notification, and now everyone understands what message was communicated even to this team member. Even though it may not have been for you, you still got a notification about that message, and you are aware of what's expected for this particular project or whatever outcome we want. So your job is to create focus so accountability becomes built in to your entire process. When accountability is built into your entire process, no one can basically escape. There's no alibis, there's no reasons why. Everyone is super clear on what's expected of them, and they're able to execute. So like, not having accountability is like playing a game without any rules, right? So you can see up on my wall, I've got the game of life and the game of Monopoly. Imagine trying to play a Monopoly game without any rules, right? Where people can just buy what they want, when they want, deals can be done. It's not your turn to even do a deal, but somebody else jumps in and can do a deal. It's like this is chaos, right? So that's why a lot of times there's chaos within a business. People are working hard, but there are no rules, there's no structure, there's no accountability built in. And so that limits your performance, and it makes your performance pretty much impossible. So here's something that I learned when, my involvement in everything, basically I became the bottleneck for the business. So I used to believe that being available meant leadership, right? And so I answered every question, I solved every problem, I pretty much maintained everything. My team stayed busy, like everybody stayed busy, but we weren't moving the needle forward. Progress wasn't being made. But once I implemented structure and made it clear on who's like the owner of the outcome of this particular thing, and that's when all of the outcomes or our output, everything, the effort, everything that we put into it got us the result that we wanted, because everybody understood, who's responsible for what, by what day and time are you responsible for it, exactly how is it that we want it done. And then if you do run into any problems, here's how you ask for help or support in order for you to still be able to get the outcome that we ultimately wanted. All right, so there's a standard that serious business owners and serious business leaders live by. So if a result matters, someone must clearly own it. If no one owns it, you haven't done your job. Everything within your business has to have an owner. If you ask someone who's responsible for this and you get, I don't know, immediately that needs to be assigned to someone. And you want to make sure that the jobs, right, the responsibilities that you have assigned to members of your team, you want to make sure that there is equal distribution, right? Like now, some people will have more responsibility than others. That's why they should get paid more money than those who don't have a lot of responsibility. And I'm not just talking about in terms of total number or quantity. I'm talking about the responsibility and the magnitude of their responsibilities, right? So the impact of their decisions, the impact of their role on your company. Accountability doesn't require drive. If it did require drive, results would fade the moment that effort dropped. And so since it doesn't, that tells us that accountability must be designed. It must be created if you want to get positive results. Most business owners think accountability creates tension, but what if the lack of accountability is what actually creates the frustration? You don't want to have A players being responsible or being graded the same way that B players are being graded. And in some cases, I really don't, advocate or believe that you should have C players on your team unless you are confident that, hey, it's an intern type role and this person has the potential to become a B player or an A player. Other than that, don't bring C player, and definitely don't bring D or F players in because they're toxic to your culture, and you don't want to lose A players because they're always having to clean up behind your B and your C players. All right, so leadership is a system, not necessarily a style. Like a lot of people like to talk about, oh, your leadership style. And I'm like, okay, like what's a style, right? And if it's just a style, then that means you can change with the seasons, just like you would change your clothing style with the weather changing. And you don't want to do that, right? Your leadership must be structured. Your leadership must be the same regardless of what's going on. Hey, I'm the leader, you're a leader, I hired you to be a leader, so therefore you must operate as a leader does. So when I stopped being the safety net and started leading and set up automations, my results became stable. They became consistent and predictable, right? And so my stress level dropped. And it dropped because I didn't have to worry about whether or not this lead was going to get a follow-up. I didn't have to worry about whether or not, this client was going to get access to what they needed to get access to. It's because our automations, our structure, and our team fully understood their roles and they understood what to look out for. And so if something didn't happen, they knew how to step in and make sure it got done. So one of my clients, Audra, she cut down on constant follow-ups with her team by naming clear owners for outcomes rather than tasks. She got 2 to 3 hours per day back because she was no longer involved in the weeds. Another client, Katiana, she improved her business by setting must-do standards instead of leaning on being kind. I'm not saying that you got to be an asshole, but what I am saying is being soft, gentle, and kind, depending on the situation, there's a time and place for being soft, gentle, and kind. And when we're talking about results, I don't have time to be soft, gentle, and kind. If you have a death in the family, if you have a sickness or a child is sick, okay, I can be soft, gentle, and kind because I can be empathetic. If I've never had that experience, I can be sympathetic. But when it comes to getting results, there's no excuses. All right. So if you look at every high performing company, accountability is not an option. It is built in because it's necessary. Accountability works because people perform best when rules are clear and enforced, and you already rely on this in other areas, such as at your home, at work, or even in your church, right? If you don't have accountability in your home, then that means your partner, spouse, your children, they can come and go whenever they want to without communicating. They can have people over whenever they want to without sharing that there's going to be guests. Your spouse can actually cheat on you, and they know that you're just going to be kind and it's okay. Yeah, that's unacceptable behavior. Now, the same thing goes with your work. If you're still working a full-time 9 to 5 job and your business is your side hustle, you want people to be held accountable for not showing up on time or not producing great work, especially if you're an A player. You don't want anyone to get the same rating as you. Like, I used to hate this in the military where everybody that I was being evaluated against basically did the bare minimum, right? They'd either show up on time or show up late. They didn't have a clean or a pressed uniform. Their boots were dirty, didn't stay clean shaven, didn't try to master their craft. But we're all being evaluated, as peers. But I'm showing up early. I'm staying late. I'm mastering my craft. My uniform is crisp. My boots are always clean. My personal appearance is always top notch. They're getting a 5 and I'm getting a 5, right? If 5 is the highest level. Well, no, they shouldn't get a 5, right? So now I'm frustrated. I don't want to work anymore because I'm like, why go above and beyond if the B players and the C players are going to get a 5 just like I'm getting a 5, but they're not putting in as much work as I am, right? So here's the mirror that most business owners refuse to look into. And you have to look in this mirror and take a look and see whether or not this is talking about you. If you're the only one who feels at fault when something slips, accountability is missing. Everyone should feel the pain of results not happening. Everyone should feel it. And so when people feel that, hey, I'm ultimately responsible for this result and I didn't get the result, there should be some pain associated with that. All right. So what leadership feels like when accountability is real, when it's designed within your business. All right. So when leadership and accountability are clear, something changes. People stop asking what to do. You stop asking for updates, and progress no longer depends on your time. That's what it feels like to truly lead. All right. So here's the next step if you're ready to stop holding everything together yourself. So if you want consistent results without micromanaging or repeating yourself, here's what to do next. You can grab a free copy of my book at the link down below if you're watching this on YouTube. If you know you're already ready to become the leader your business needs, you can book a strategy call via the link down in the description, or there's going to be a button right below this video if you're watching this on a landing page. It's time to implement accountability into your business. This is next level leadership stuff. This is high level entrepreneurship and business ownership. If you know you're ready to go to your next level, click the link, click the button, schedule a call, share a little bit of information with us so we know exactly where you are, where you're trying to get to, and what's keeping you from getting there. There's no obligation for you to book the call. The call is totally free. If at the end of the call you don't believe that we're a good fit, you can walk away with the strategy, any gifts or bonuses that I give you at no cost to you, and I will make some recommendations on who you might be a better fit for, because we only want to work with people who are aligned with us. All right. So, but if this hit home for you, drop a comment down in the comment section. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next video. Peace.